the Dirty Birds in Arizona. And this is the season where they really have to prove themselves. They really have to do something in that desert, because if they don't, the ownership, the front office really have to do some like deep thinking. They really have to think hard in the clouds, because it's been 2 straight seasons of constant choking, late season choking, like, and they don't do shit. They literally don't do shit about it to respond to it. 2020 was okay, a little understandable. 2021 was absolutely not, especially when you go 7-0 to start the season. And that's exactly what the Arizona Cardinals did in 2021. The Arizona Cardinals get off to this 7-0 start thanks to a potential MVP candidate in Kyler Murray, who looked pretty damn good. He looked pretty damn good in the first half of the season. He also had a 3-headed dragon in DeAndre Hopkins, Christian Kirk, Rondale Moore, and a 4th guy in AJ Green whenever he came along. Then you had a defense led by Chandler Jones and JJ Watt holding up that pass rush. They looked like a prime Super Bowl candidate in the first half of the season. But then they get hit with the injury bug, especially DeAndre Hopkins and JJ Watt. They lose to the Green Bay Packers. They had a decent November. They destroyed my 49ers on the road. And they also beat the Seahawks, so they go 2-1, so not bad. But then in December, this is very, very questionable. You lose your final 4 of 6 games. You especially lose to the Detroit Lions. You get not only lose to the Detroit Lions, but you get blasted. You get hammered by Jared Goff and the Detroit Lions on the road and drop all the way down to the 5th seed in the playoffs. And then you get to proceed to get your ass whooped, embarrassed, bamboozled by the eventual Super Bowl champions in a primetime wildcard game on a Monday night. That's embarrassing. That is absolutely embarrassing. And that should have been the catalyst for head coach Kliff Kingsbury to be fired. It should have led to him being fired. But no, somehow he still had a job. He still has a job. And for the Cardinals this past offseason, their main priorities, well, it should have been firing Kliff Kingsbury, but I don't know what the hell the Cardinals front office is doing. But nonetheless, their priorities from my 2021 season recap were to get younger at the receiver position, because DeAndre Hopkins is not getting any younger. He missed a good half of the season due to injury. They re-signed AJ Green, but again, he's not like any younger. He's kind of washed at this point. So you didn't have a lot of youth aside from Rondale Moore at that position. You also had to find the best available edge rusher in the draft because of a certain thing that happened in free agency, and they need lots and lots of help in the secondary. Some of their key moves in the free agency and the draft, well, like I said, they didn't really do much but re-sign AJ Green and a punter, Andy Lee. That is it. Because what happened was they managed to lose Christian Kirk to the Jaguars for a shit ton of money that honestly he didn't really deserve. And then they went on to lose a big piece in their defense, in their pass rush, Chandler Jones, to the Las Vegas Raiders. And they also lost Jordan Hicks to the Minnesota Vikings. 2 pieces. They lost 2 key pieces in their pass rush in free agency. Like, damn. Like, goddamn. And then when you get to the draft, they don't address it that much. Like, they at least try to, but like, who knows if they pan out? Who knows if they pan out? They got San Diego State and Cincinnati's Cameron Thomas and Majai Sanders. They both play defensive end, but we'll see if they have the pass rushing prowess that Chandler Jones has. And they also picked up a tight end. I will commend them for this a little bit. They picked up a tight end by the name of Trey McBride. So in case Zach Ertz gets hurt again, or he doesn't like play up to his whatever potential he has left, you know, this McBride kid looks okay. He looks solid. So maybe he could step up to be an option for Kyler Murray. And then another big move that the Cardinals did was they traded for Ravens wide receiver on draft night, Marquise Brown. Yes, Hollywood Brown is back with Kyler Murray. The two college buddies reunited for the Cardinals' first round pick. So not a bad draft night trade for the Arizona Cardinals. I gotta admit that. But unfortunately, during the offseason, and this is one of my biggest takeaways for the Cardinals, they don't have not Kyler Murray. They don't have DeAndre Hopkins for the first half of the season because he's suspended for violating the NFL's performance-enhancing drug policy. Yeah, that is yikes. Like, how is that offense going to function without DeAndre Hopkins? How is he going to, who's going to be the wide receiver too? I guess it's going to be Rondale Moore or whoever. I don't know. I really don't know. I genuinely don't know. And then on the defensive end, the Arizona Cardinals did not address the loss of Chandler Jones pretty well. They did not address, they barely addressed it because you don't know what you have in Cameron Thomas. You don't know what you have in Majai Sanders. So pretty much, you pretty much have a group of those two. And also, you have linebackers Marcus Golden leading the charge, who had less than half of what Chandler Jones did last season, because Chandler Jones pretty much had a third of what Arizona's sack production was. So that's going to be hard to replicate. It's hard to replicate. They also going to have a hard time replicating that when you also have a group of Zaven Collins and Isaiah Simmons, who hasn't done much since they got drafted to Arizona. They've yet to grab that proverbial brass ring, like they say in WWE, grabbing that brass ring to grabbing that spot in the chart. I don't know. So going to 2022 for the Arizona Cardinals, your main focus is to not only have a winning record in 2022, not only making the playoffs again, but actually winning a playoff game and not collapsing, not choking late in the season. And if they do it again, they better fire Kliff Kingsbury. They seriously should consider it this time around, because if they don't, they're seriously like a deserting, taking time bomb of mediocrity down there. Seriously. Now, looking at some of their key games in 2022, obviously, the very first game at home against Kansas City, going up against Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. Oh my God. I guess you could say it's a balanced matchup because, well, Patrick Mahomes is also looking to prove that he can win games without Tyreek Hill. And Kyler Murray's looking to prove that he can win games without DeAndre Hopkins. And he also has a brand new toy in Marquise Brown. So it's time for Murray and company to prove that. Why not prove that against a team that lost its best receiver in Tyreek Hill in the offseason? And then, of course, I only put this there because, well, it'll determine where the Cardinals stand by this point in the season. The two games against the Seattle Seahawks. And yes, we'll discuss it when we get there. But Seattle is going to be a crappy team in 2022. But we know how the Cardinals tend to sleep on very shitty teams, especially ones led by Kliff Kingsbury. So they play the Seattle Seahawks in week 6 and 9. So if anything happens, like whether the Cardinals sweep them under the rug or they get swept under the rug, it'll determine where they're headed the rest of the way. And then you got two big games against the LA Rams in Los Angeles. And then you go down to Mexico City in Estadio Azteca to play the San Francisco 49ers that next week. So two big division games for Arizona. It can make or break your season in terms of playoff contention or just break your spirits in general for Arizona. Now, some of my big questions for Arizona going through the season And I guess this is one of the big takeaways too. I forgot to mention, Kyler Murray has been on a bitch fit because he was trying to get a contract extension done this offseason, and the Cardinals, I don't know, they couldn't agree on anything on him. But he's been going to mini camps and OTAs, so I mean that's at least some positive signs for the Cardinals. But the question is, do they get a contract extension done before the season? Because you don't want that lingering over your head. As much as I don't believe Kyler Murray deserves another contract in Arizona because of how much he has choked in the last 2 seasons, I think that they should at least try to get it done. Like, speaking objectively, they should at least try to get it done before the season starts, because if they don't, it's just going to be a constant question mark. It's just going to be a constant talking point throughout the season, and especially if whether or not Kyler Murray plays good, whether he plays bad, it's just going to be a point of discussion all season long for Arizona and its media and its fan base. It's just going to be something to talk about. Now, how do they function with Marquise Brown, with and without DeAndre Hopkins in the lineup? Like, who is Kyler Murray defer to most of the time? How does he spread the ball around balance-wise? It's going to be something that they're going to have to work on when training camp comes. Now, for Kliff Kingsbury, can he finally have some consistency late in the season? Because December, he choked. They had a chance to get to the playoffs. They choked against the Jared Goffless Rams. And that 7th seed went to the Chicago Bears and the eventual MVP, Mitch Trubisky. 2021, they go on and lose 4 of their final 6 games. They basically hand the NFC West to the LA Rams, and then they get destroyed by them as a reward. So can Kliff Kingsbury finally not crack under the pressure of the bright lights in December, especially if his team at that point is in contention to make the wild card? I don't know. We'll see. So for Arizona, you lose all these key players. You don't do anything to address them. You have serious question marks about your head coach and whether or not a quarterback that can get a contract extension before the season starts, and a pretty much difficult schedule to go at it, mind you. And also a wide receiver who's suspended for the first 6 games of the season. It's going to be a big yikes of a season for the Arizona Cardinals. So I could foresee them going 8 wins tops for Arizona. Now, that could change. That could change in an instant, but for Arizona to go more than 8 wins, they're going to have to do some serious damage in the NFC West and in a weak NFC. But if they choke like they've done the last 2 seasons, it's time to seriously consider giving the axe, throwing out the cliff on Kliff Kingsbury.